Dermot and Dave.
Conversation, crack,
And the music you love.
Today FM.
It all happens here.
Today FM.
They're all around us. Flying ants are back to wreck your head, and we're joined by Collie Ennis, who's the science officer for the Herpetological Society of Ireland and the host of the brilliant Critter Shed podcast, to explain what they're up to, why they're here, and why they make seagulls drunk. Good morning, Collie.
Morning, how are you, lads?
Not bad. I saw a picture on I think it was the UK's Met Office, their Instagram, and it was like, a rain shower was over here, and it was kind of small. It was just north of London, and then all of London was covered in a giant rain cloud, except they labelled it and went, not a cloud, flying insects.
Yeah, that's the nuptial flight of the queen ants, and it's this time of year now. They kick off every year.
Okay, bye.
It's just too disgusting to talk about.
So, is there one particular day, or is it like, a series of kind of meteorological and herpetological conditions that lead to this happening at whatever time?
It's a season.
Right.
So it's basically humidity and heat in localized areas. If it hits a certain point that they like, you'll just see the workers starting to come out of the nest. They'll widen the holes around the nest and start clearing the runway, so to speak, just like the lads at the airport. And then the queens all line up and they belt out, and you can have hundreds and large amounts of queens leaving with the males at the same time from each nest. Now, if you get a large area like what happened over London, that the temperature and humidity was constant throughout that area, they'll all do it at the same time.
Okay.
And then you get these massive swarms of them coming up.
And so
we could,
what are the queens doing? What are they looking for when they head off and they fly up? What's happening?
They're looking for new gaffs. They're out in the property market looking for new nests, new places to set up a shop for themselves.
Well, I hope they avoid Dublin. They're going to be very disappointed.
They'll probably wouldn't want to be there with the rents, but yeah, no, I mean, like at this time of year, and I'm thinking like the way it's looking this week, it's definitely going to kick off up around here, because I've been watching a lot of activity around nests. So if you're out for your outside meal or pint, you might want to bring a bit of paper or an umbrella just to keep them off.
Yeah, because I mean they genuinely are swarms, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean that's a survival tactic for them. So if you only had one or two queens leaving the nest at the same time, they'd be munched straight away,
right,
because everything wants to eat them. But if you have vast numbers leaving altogether, it overwhelms the predators. So they just get so full and wrecked on them that they're just. They allow the possibility for some of them to survive.
Talk to us about them getting wrecked, because when I saw that line that it actually makes seagulls a bit kind of tipsy, that's fascinating. What's happening there?
There's chemicals in each of the ants. They have some defensive chemicals, and if you were to eat, and apparently if a seagull eats enough of them, they do get quite kind of, they start to stagger around and be a bit more loud. They look like England fans at the weekend. So like
the ones on my roof this morning were definitely English fans. Hooligans, they were hooligan seagulls.
It's mad. If you look above the cities, if you do notice flying ants in your area, if you look around, especially look up, you'll actually see the seagulls flying around, catching them on the wing. Okay. And they're kind of flying quite awkwardly, you know what I mean? It's like it's very funny to observe, but they love them. They eat them for breakfast, dinner and tea. And
it's because they have this folic acid in their stomach.
Yeah, there's a type of acid in their stomach that will just, if you consume enough of it, it would have a chemical reaction,
right,
so to speak. Yeah.
Well, it's happening. Damie's been in touch with us, Collie, and he says, we had those pesky flying ants yesterday. I'm in Castleknock. Someone else said had it happen in my garden yesterday. It was mad looking. #flying nightmare. And someone says, it was relaxing last night in the house, 9ish. I noticed a large window was full of ants, both flying and non-flying, on the inside. My remedy was the vacuum cleaner. Every one of those lads got locked up and hoovered and put into the shed, never to be used again. They appear to have a nest on the outside under the window, a distressed mossy boy who didn't enjoy his large bottle of cider last night in the Dacia. So would they nest at the side of a house, or are they kind of in the ground, or where do they go?
Yeah, well, I mean, the main ants that we'd be looking at, like we've 20-60 species of ants in Ireland, but the one you'd see the most of, especially around urban areas, is the black ant, the black garden ant. And they're the ones that really love to hang around your patio, cracks in the wall, cracks under rocks in your garden. So they're the main ones. They're the ones, and they do, as you were saying, they like to, along the edge of a house, or if there's a bit of the sand under the pavements that you have in your garden, your slabs, they love that. So, that's ideal conditions for them. And that's now when the queens that have taken off and mated on the wing, when they land, they'll pull their wings off and try and find places like that to set up colonies.
They pull their wings off?
Yeah, they ripped them off themselves. They find a fella, they mate with him, he dies. So he has a grand old life, and then they'll land on the ground, and then they'll actually move their own wings, and they look like ants, but like on steroids. They look massive compared to them, but they're exact same, and they'll wander off to try and find an area. And as I said, it's just a numbers game, because most of them won't survive, but enough of them survive to set up the new colonies for the next season and wreck our heads.
It's kind of like in World War II when the Russians just kept throwing bodies at the front line, and it was like, well, if we just keep sending men there, some Germans might stop. It's kind of like that. Are they kind of crap at flying? Because they're the sort of insect that sort of fly into your face and sort of fall onto the table in front of you. They look pretty drunk themselves.
They're kind of closely related to wasps, ants are, but they are not. Obviously, they're only flying for a day, literally. So they're not the best flyers, but they do cover some space. Like, I mean, once they get up high, they go really, really high into the air and try and catch the breeze to spread out and get those numbers across a wide area. But yeah, they won't be in the red arrows anytime soon. Put it that way.
I got the little L plates on.
Exactly.
There's a qualified ant herder from Limerick who says, I had the most horrific invasion last year of ants. Came home to find my glass double doors completely covered with flying ants. On the inside, I still don't know how they got in. Came home the following day to the same thing. It was like a horror film.
They seem to be burglars, these things. They keep managing to get inside people's houses.
Well, when the queen set up a nest, say in, a crack in your wall outside in the garden, they'll be, sending out workers looking for the crisps you left under the couch, or and you mightn't notice them, but there might be a small entrance there in under your door, or somewhere with a little gap in the wall where they've been coming in and out. Now, when the queens are leaving the nest, that's just another entrance for them to leave through, and that's why they come into your house. So it's a good idea to make sure you have if you do notice ants, to try and block up those holes that allow them access.
I was going to say, trying to block a hole that a tiny ant can get through sounds like a bit of an ordeal, in fairness. Collie, usually when we have somebody like you on, we kind of say, okay, right, so what can we do to stop this happening? It sounds like the answer is that we can't.
We don't want to, because I mean, the way I tell people to look at it, first of all, remember that they're not harming you, they're not going to bite you, they can't sting, they're a little bit irritating, but there's no danger to us. And to be honest with you, we don't have wildebeest crossing the plains of the Phoenix Park, or we don't have any natural wonders kind of on that scale, except for Flying Ant Day. So look at it as something amazing to look at. Show your kids, it will spark an interest in nature with them. And it is kind of cool, considering it's like all these billions of little tiny creatures taking off to have a mass orgy on the wing and then try and
kids, sit down till I tell you about this.
Or all the men die.
Collie Ennis.
I think it's an amazing feat of nature, and I think it's something we should wonder about.
I like that attitude. Collie Ennis is the science officer for the Herpetological Society of Ireland and the host of the brilliant Critter Shed podcast. Collie, thanks for joining us. As always, talk again soon.
No problem, lads. Take it easy.
Cheers. See you, Collie.
Dermot and Dave.
Weekdays from 9 a.m.
Today